This is as groovy as it gets.
Oprah, Can You Hear Me? Oprah vs. Donald 2020 is a conversation by Julie Benetti and Susan Barbaro and a production of EI Alliance, copyright 2019. America is courtesy of New Threads off their new album, Felonious Wilma. Hi, this is Julie, and I am here with Susan, and we were actually in the midst of another podcast, and I said, wait, this applies to Oprah and President Trump. And so what we were in the midst of was working on our Neville Goddard, The Power of Awareness, a conversation podcast that is in our Ancient Texts show. And what we were talking about is one of his chapters in here. It talks about interference. And where I started to think about Oprah was Neville Goddard starts to say, basically, you know, you're free to choose the concept of yourself that you'll accept of yourself. And he gives this great sentence that I loved, because where I went from there, that statement, you know, basically the truth of you make yourself feel or do anything yourself. It's you who's doing that. And what he goes on to after that is he says, the process of rising from your present concept to a higher concept of yourself is the means of all true progress. And I thought, that is such a powerful statement. And for some reason, it just made me think of Oprah. It made me think of election 2020. It made me think of President Trump now. It made me think of what's going on and what's not going on, although we don't know of everything that's going on or not. And it made me think about rising from your present concept to a higher concept of yourself and what that means and how you could do that.
I think we all want to do it. I think ultimately this is what our goal is. And, you know, we started because when we finished the podcast and you looked at me and you said, all I can hear is Oprah. And I thought, and we were like, what kind of a podcast would we do to talk about Oprah? And I thought, wait a minute, the focus isn't correct.
Right.
Who, I would ask, if the rising from your present concept to a higher concept, my question would be, who could push President Trump to do that? Because Trump's going to do it himself, because it's not someone does it. But when you have someone that steps in and kind of nudges you and, you know, pushes you, and you have to go to a higher concept of yourself, who could do that? Who could actually do that?
And the answer is?
Well, we're going to say Oprah. I'll tell you who the answer is not. And that is, as we've said over and over, a career politician.
Right.
They're not going to do it.
They're not even in the same energy.
No.
And if you listen to our podcast before, Oprah and Spirituality, you'll get more of the gist of what we're talking about, because a career politician is not in the same energy, because it's not what it's about. It's not making a career out of the politics that's going on. It's about what's going on.
And so when I think about it and I think about Trump, and it's like, you need somebody who can, keep up with you. Someone who can sit there and challenge you not to be who they want, but to actually step up and say, this is who I am. You want to go up against me? That's okay. I'm not you can't fight somebody on who they are. If you're going to go up against someone like Donald Trump, you can't play his game, because he's master at his game. You have to bring your game and be just as confident in who you are and stepping up there. And then, because people talk about he bad mouths and he bullies and he does all this. Well, he gets away with it because people are playing his game. If he's going to sit there and bully you and you say, so what? And he says things that try to knock you down, but you're so present in the space of who you are and he can't do it. He's going to have to figure out another way of doing it. He's going to have to say, wait a minute, I can't bully this person. I can't, push them out of their own space, because they're so ingrained in who they are and where they are. And I wonder, like I said, the type of person that can do it.
The part of that, which is interesting, is that in actually coming from the last podcast as well about Oprah and Spirituality, I mentioned the April 1st, 2019 issue of the New Yorker, and there's an article in here about the latest leader of Brazil and how much he is borrowing from the Trump playbook, possibly, because he sounds just like, a lot of the personality issues and a lot of the things that are occurring. And he is now leader. He sounds very similar to a lot of the things that have been expressed to us through the news and the media about President Trump. And so looking at those concepts and that already existing, and rising to a higher version of something else is fascinating in this sense. And what could do that? And in the arena of what's occurred in Brazil, it wasn't other career politicians. I mean, this gentleman is now the leader. And so looking at that and looking at what kind of energy and what kind of force could kind of raise Donald Trump to a higher version of himself is fascinating and intriguing.
So it can't be the average politician that's out there. And we've said Oprah because Oprah, of course, has a huge base. Oprah has a lot of, between her race and her gender, she has a lot going for her. And she's already gone out and has been with people. She's brought people together just through her self-help, platform. And if she can step into the space of this is just who I am, and you almost have to disengage from Trump. I can't stress it enough. You cannot play his game. And you have the old politicians when he first ran that didn't know, they were just playing the typical politician game, and they couldn't keep up with them because they weren't present, they weren't authentic. He could see right through them and bat them aside.
Right.
Now you have the ones that are coming in and like they're trying to sound like Trump, and I'm just going to say it again, like with Elizabeth Warren. Yeah, come on, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and she's trying to sound like, well, this is who I really am. I'm like all of you. And it just doesn't come through as authentic. And now it's just career politicians that are going back to the way it was. I mean, Joe Biden, and like, all right, well, we're going to be nice. We're going to, and it's not authentic. And so, of course, he can bat them aside. You need somebody who can step up. And you know what? I don't think we're going to have Oprah coming forward with a sexual harassment case, or, if it were going to be, it would have occurred by now. And she's going to come in and she could be a strong woman and be in the space of who she is. And that will completely throw Trump off his game. He's going to have to play a new game, and he'll have to shuffle. He thinks he knows how he would beat her. He thinks he knows, whether that's planting a seed of doubt in her mind, so in case she decides to run, I don't know. But I will tell you, if she stepped up her game and went in with this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be myself, and I can feel it inside me as I say it, and I'm going to step in, and this is going to work, and I'm going to have the people I want, and this is what we're going to go for and how we're going to do it. And she stayed on that track. I think Trump will be like in ecstasy to sit there and say, whoa, here's someone that's going to make me step up. He's going to have to like move in a space of, I can't play this the same way. I got to play a different game here.
Right. And, I think what's interesting, too, is that we all kind of are trying to raise the level of our game to a degree. And however we want to do it is okay. And whatever we want to do is okay. Yet how we do it sometimes is the question. And often, when you just kind of look out there, and I'm talking about in society and in the quote-unquote real world and in reality, you just kind of go, ooh, do I want to be a part of that? And some things, are great, and you want to be a part of it, and they're inspiring and empowering, woohoo! And other things are like, ooh, what a mess. I'm not even going out there and into that.
Right.
And, that's, of course, a choice you have to make. Yet, I think what you said when we first started out, everybody, there's that's inherent in us. And I'm going to kind of blatantly say it out there. Yeah. Everybody has that desire. Yes. And that yearning, and that it's even stronger than that because we're all connected in it, and it's a part of our consciousness that we want to expand and expel and kind of, propel into a higher version of ourselves. And how can you do that? You can, I kind of think of like catapulting. And how can you do that? Because sometimes you look outside and you go, oh gosh, none of that's going to do anything for me.
When we wrote the Trump book, when we sat down and we initially wrote it, the whole reason what we got that he was going to win is because we said he appeared, again, we didn't say he appeared to be himself. And walking in and getting battered by the systems and powers that be, it actually helped us to relate to him better. And he used that. I mean, he used a mastermind. He used that to bring people, because as we said in the book, how can a multimillionaire with a model wife and lives in a tower and gold all around, how can he present himself as being like us? Well, he did. And he got elected. And what's interesting is, because what you just said, we all want to be who we are, which I know I said in the beginning. Oh my God, who can better relate to us on a grand scheme, if not Trump, but Oprah?
Right. Yeah.
Because she has been there. I remember, Hurricane Katrina, and everybody was in the Superdome.
Right.
That's
yes.
She was there.
Yeah.
And she's been there. And it's like, people, I mean, you were saying in the previous podcast that people see Oprah and she feels very, would you say spiritual? She seemed very Pope-like. Not Pope-like, but the same feeling.
Right.
And the way I look at that is because she has us all in this, she's part of us. So Trump has worked, I mean, you said this in the book, that he created the space and the illusion that he was a part of us. And he used the career politician, because nobody likes career politicians. It's the joke. Everybody says, nobody likes them. And so he did that. And that's everything we've been talking about, and everything that's on the news relates to just politics.
Right.
And people say, I'm like you, that's Elizabeth Warren coming out saying, have a beer with me. There's inauthentic statements in there. That doesn't resonate with us because we are too smart. But Trump was able to do it in a very subtle way that we couldn't quite put our finger on it. And we said it back then. But who can do it with authenticity and really bring it is Oprah. And what would Trump do? He'd have to change his whole game.
Right.
He'd have to change his whole game.
And in actuality, that's what all these podcasts have been about. And what we're sharing. And when we looked at the Trump book we wrote, and we examined all the 12 points that we came up with, and looked at how he was using energy possibly, and yet we had a lot of things that confirmed what we were talking about as science principles. We looked and said, what could Oprah do with this? We said that in some of our earlier podcasts, and we shared.
And the one thing we said at the end of I don't have the book in front of me, but the end of the book was, Trump appears to be who he is. And we said, can he keep it up? I mean, I don't know the exact words. I can't quote it because it's not in front of me, but that's basically what we said. Can he keep it up? Because that was his little caveat, little, and it was subtle. It wasn't in your face. It was subtle. And so,
well, again,
I would think that if Oprah stepped in, because of who she is.
So that's where the I'm Oprah campaign comes from. I'm Oprah. I mean, that's where that whole resonates, because when to confirm what you're saying, I mean, his pictures with, Big Macs and French fries and Kentucky Fried Chicken, and here I am golfing, here I am, doing the regular stuff, and here I am. And I mean, all that stuff relates to taking us to those feelings and sensations of that. And yet Oprah is naturally in it. She doesn't have to do all that work. She's naturally one where we are.
So this podcast is about Trump. Okay, so what I'm saying is yes to everything you're saying, but it now puts the onus on Trump to say, I have to do better. I have to find a bigger concept of myself. And that's really, I mean, we've talked about that with Oprah, and but for Trump, who else can create that? Who else can make him say, I got to up my game. And maybe the fact that he made the comment about Oprah being insecure was kind of like planting a seed. So in case she runs, I planted the seed. I can go back now and tap it and hit it and get a reaction and affect it. But she, as we said before, can say, so what? And if she does and she moves forward, that creates, a whole new, what do I do with this now?
Right. So in actuality, what we are saying is that if Trump wants to up his game, which we would think that, to compete with himself, he wants to keep on going and propelling and up his game, he really needs to get Oprah to run. Thank you for listening to this production from EI Alliance. Check out our Amazon authors pages for books and podcasts, along with our Donald Trump and Oprah books for this series. Find great music by New Threads on iTunes, Spotify, and on newthreads.us.